Cliff is a construction tech founder, but he actually has a background in home building. So he's a third generation home builder. And then he ventured into building technology for his industry. I'm Annie. I'm the co-founder of Billy, and we're building construction real estate's favorite on-site personal assistant. So over to you, Cliff. Tell me a bit about your decision to get into construction tech. And obviously, your family has always been in home building, and you're third generation. And I guess when you went into the business, maybe you thought about doing things a little bit differently already. But then what made you really make the decision to go all the way into building technology for the industry?
So I'll start with my second career, which is the construction tech part of my career. And honestly, Annie, it happened because you have one of these situations on your job sites and you're totally frustrated with what is going on. And then I kind of had this aha moment, right? That there just has to be a better way of doing this. And so the short story is we broke ground on a project here in the New York City metro area, and it was the middle of the winter and it was very cold and the ground was frozen, but we moved ahead because we waited a long time for the permit. And so we broke ground and we had dirt everywhere, Annie. And what's so interesting about moving dirt and the resourcing of it is that what I found out over the 5.5, 6 years that I ran Soil Connect is my problem is not just a New York problem. It's a problem here in America. And then I started getting phone calls from all over the world that we have the same problem. So here I had a little problem on my job site and there had to be a better way of doing it. And that's kind of how I just started with this new concept. And it's called Soil Connect. But that's kind of how I got into it, almost by accident, right? But going back a little bit, because you and I have very similar backgrounds, right? I come from a home building background. I'm third generation builder, developer, grew up on the job site. I was always that kid that was running around, always in everybody's way. And yes, I went to university. I have a degree in economics, never did anything with it, put my work boots on and went into the field. I think you have a similar background, don't you?
Yeah, somewhat similar background. My dad was a builder as well. So he'd always tell me stories about the job site. And I also went to university and got an economics degree, did something with it. But after 6 years of finance, I just decided to get into the construction real estate business for real and really experience it myself and kind of find different ways to do things in the business. Yeah, fascinating story. You experienced firsthand the pain points on these job sites, right? I mean, obviously, in construction, there are like such a big spectrum of problems to solve. And how did you pick out one problem that you really, really wanted to solve? And why was that Soil Connect?
Well, that was the pain right at that minute. Without me trying to solve the problem, the job site was going to shut down because we had dirt everywhere. The foundation guy would show up on the job site, but wouldn't be able to get his men, tools, or equipment anywhere near the hole until I was able to get rid of the dirt. It was just, like I said, one of these moments that what's the best way? How am I going to solve the problem? And the problem was contractors, excavation contractors, builders, we would get on the telephone and we would just call everybody we know and try to figure it out. And clearly, because it was the winter time and not a lot was going on, because it was very cold that winter, there needed to be a solution. And so the solution was if we can create a marketplace or a platform, and just like any other platform there is in the world today, you put out information that people are interested in, and you go to the site and you transact. With Soil Connect is that if you need dirt, or if you need to get rid of dirt or aggregates or rocks or any of the materials that we need on the job site today, you go on our platform and you connect with those who have it or those who need it. Then everybody was a winner. Everybody was saving time. And that's how it became successful, by everybody coming on the site. But with all of that being said, every single construction tech company in the world today, whether in Hong Kong or Australia or me here in New York City, it's all about how to get people in our industry to use technology. And that's been hard because no matter what type of construction tech you're working on, the common theme is we need to change behavior. And that has been the hardest part of construction technology. Do you see that where you are as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, building technology for physical industries like construction is very different from building technology for industries that are more service oriented or people who are sitting in the office, right, who are just operating programs all day. But people in
Yep.
our industry, in construction, they're out there in the physical world. You're on job sites. You're looking at these problems that are very integrated with the physical world. It involves moving dirt physically from one site to another. It involves getting the right equipment in on time. It involves getting the right crew in on time. And it's all about putting physical resources together. And I guess building technology for that means that merging the data world and the physical world together has been a real challenge, right? Because when people are operating in the physical world, they don't have time to contribute data. They don't have time to operate a complicated program just to get the data in. How did you get people to eventually adapt to a new behavior?
Yeah, so a couple of very interesting points that simplicity in the construction tech world is key. You can't try to overcomplicate these programs because, to your point, we're so busy in the field all day. And then when do we have time to learn these very complicated programs? Your app and Soil Connect are two perfect examples of simplicity. I downloaded your app a couple of weeks ago, and it literally took me 2, 3, 4 minutes most before I was able to use it and be productive with it. And that's the same thing with Soil Connect. They're easy to use, simple to use. The ROI on these simple apps are off the charts and up to the right. And so I love the simplistic approach to creating these mobile apps to help the guys in the field. So we started in 2018, okay? And in 2018, the construction tech revolution, if you will, was just starting to ramp up. Okay. So I had some really, really hard, difficult questions and answers trying to sell Soil Connect in 2018. Okay. And so what has happened over these 6 and 7 years now is the generational shift has now changed. And so in 2018, when I would be talking to the president or the CEO or chief operating officer of some of these companies, they were on the older side. Now, whatever that means, we could define it. But over the 6 or 7 years, the generational shift has changed. And then the younger generation who was coming into the industry and was new in the industry or were associates in these big firms were also coming out of college, and they were learning about the business and they were understanding tech because they grew up with the tech. So having people come and use the Soil Connect app as just one example has been easier the past 24, 30 months because of the evolution and the generational change. So I suffered, admittedly, early on, dealing with the old timers, however you want to define that. So it's gotten better for sure. How about some of the builders that you face? How's that evolution going?
So you talked about generational change, and we talked about simplicity earlier. So you have this whole new generation of software that is AI native, right? So we can really see the potential to humanize that user interface. The simplicity is back, right? Everybody likes simplicity, no matter where you are in the world and no matter what generation you're from, everybody likes simplicity, right? If the interface is simple enough, I think technology should be indiscriminate to age. It should be indiscriminate to, whereabouts you are in the world, right? So I think with AI, we really do see the opportunity to open up technology to a much bigger population than before, especially in traditional industries like construction. And people kept saying how construction hasn't caught up to technology. I just think it's the reverse, right? That technology hasn't caught up to the needs of the industry, really, in the past 2 decades. And a lot of the technologies that were available in the market were just a bit too complicated for people's everyday use. And it's not because people don't want to embrace technology. It's not because people are not tech savvy enough. They're using the most convenient, user-friendly tech on their phones, right? You would just get on a phone call, or you would get on a text message, or you would have a WhatsApp group to just keep everybody connected. These are technologies too. These are simple and fast, just straightforward technologies that you operate on. But obviously, there are downsides to the data being scattered everywhere. But to introduce a system into a home building business, it just simply cannot get more complicated than your original workflow, right? If you ask people to switch all the way from the simple workflow that they had before to this intense, complex system that they have to
Yep.
train all their staff on, it's just not going to be possible. Do you remember your days managing a team of staff? If you wanted to introduce a new system to the team.
So I have vivid memories of my dad buying the first version of Timberline software for builders. Okay. I might be aging myself a little bit right now, but Timberline came out with a software for builders, right? And my dad was always tech forward. And he spent, I don't even know how many thousands of dollars for the Timberline product version one. And I remember it taking me, my dad, the head of bookkeeping, months and months and months to learn the program. And then you had to first transition all of your data and all your information into the new system. It was a huge mountain to climb. So yes, I'm all about understanding how long does it take to get your ROI back. And yes, to your point exactly, and is the AI is now going to take this whole thing to a whole new level. But as I'm laughing because the memories are coming back to me. So Timberline version one, and then Excel came out. And and when Excel came out, then we had to take all of our little sheets that we used, and we had to learn how to use Excel. And that was a big deal. And so fast forward, here we are in 2025, and AI is now taking over everything we do, make life easy to be more productive and not stress out and over learning these programs. So it will be really, really interesting to see how AI takes off over the next few years and makes life easy for us. And, just back to one point, I think also the other very interesting word that we use is value. Our users have to see value. And when they see the value and they see the ease of use and they see how much time they're saving, that's how we get them on board.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with your point on value. And you mentioned the keyword ROI, right? So return on investment. And all the points we made about simplicity, it's about lowering that upfront investment, right? Investment in training, investment in learning how to operate the system. We have to lower that significantly in order to get more small businesses to embrace technology. And then you'd have to give them that very quick return on the investment, whether that's saving them 1 or 2 hours per day per staff, making reports and gathering data, just automating that whole spreadsheet making workflow, automating that daily log making workflow, just getting all the information together and categorizing everything automatically. That's going to save the staff on an individual level 1 to 2 hours per day, or save the entire team up to 5 to 10 hours per day. So that's like immediate return on investment. You can observe that on a daily basis, and that's how you can actually justify your value to customers.
The Soil Connect has, like so many startups, we've done a couple of different pivots along the way to find our way to where we need to be to have a profitable and sustainable business. And so the value proposition that Soil Connect is now bringing to the table is we are able to find and get rid of dirt just cheaper than the old school way of doing this by leveraging technology. Right. So how was it done in the older days is you call 3, 4, 5 people to see who needs it and when they need it, and you make the best deal you can. So having access to technology and databases and text messages and LinkedIn and emailing, we just have our access to a whole marketplace of people in a city. And so by us creating density in an area, right, because moving dirt is local and we go to find a closer connection, by leveraging our technology, we're giving our users more options about where to find the dirt or where to get rid of the dirt. And that's the value prop right there. That's the main value prop. The second value prop that we're bringing to the table is we are now tracking how many loads of dirt are being moved in an hour, in a day, in a week, in a month. And based upon that type of information, then builders, general contractors, developers know if they're on time, ahead of time, behind time. We in the industry know, right, especially the home builders, that we have acquisition loans and we have construction loans. And every day money is costing us, the clock is ticking. And so by us tracking dirt and the amount of dirt that's being moved on any given day, we are able to shorten the cycle down and save the money. Saving the money back is the value proposition. And so we took this data and we spun it up into a dashboard so you can sit in your office and actually know what's going on the job site, if they're moving, how many loads they're moving, or why they're not moving. And that all, once again, circles back to saving the money, value proposition. And that's where our users find the most value, which at the end of the day, Annie, you're doing the same thing. You're saving them time. And you're saving them money by saving them time and making it more efficient to take care of all the little things that need to be taken care of.
What do you think are the biggest challenges when you got started?
So I started Soil Connect. I funded Soil Connect. Keeping in mind, I'm a builder. What do I know about creating a mobile app? Zero. But I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I seem to figure out things as they come along. And that's what we do as founders, Annie, right? I'm a builder. I know how to read blueprints. I know how to yell at contractors. I don't know how to create a mobile app. And that was a really, really eye-opening experience, I got to tell you. And so it took us 6 months to create version 1 of Soil Connect. And then when we released it, guess what? I hated it. And so I had to do version 2, right? So all this time, I was the one funding it, okay? And then at a point in time, I think we were about 14, 16 months into it, it was time to raise some money because, we had a little traction. And admittedly, in 2018, it was much easier, not easy, but easier to raise money. And the reason why it was easier is because that was the starting of the construction tech evolution or revolution. And so VCs were very, very interested in participating in young construction tech companies because this was a newer thing. And so raising money in 18 and 19 was definitely easier. And then we hit the pandemic, right? And that was especially hard here in New York City. And that was a tougher time for Soil Connect, but we got through it. And then coming out of the pandemic, there was now another whole shift in the VC world, right? Interest rates started to go up a little bit. Inflation was up. And then all of a sudden, the mindset of a VC changed. When did you start?
You don't just wake up one day and go, hey, I've decided to become an entrepreneur, right? It's always kind of like when you're doing something along the way and you decide to try something a little bit new and then you fail and then you decide, hey, I'm not okay with just leaving it at that. I want to try again. And that moment you realize you want to start your own company or you want to build something new, right? And that's exactly what happened to me, really. So pre-COVID, we were building in New Zealand and we had this land subdivision project and we were planning it out and we were planning on quite a big volume of homes, right? To build on subdivided lands. And we were noticing like the building cycles were very, very long. And it took ages to get permits and it took ages to go through the whole design feasibility. And I just thought, because I came from a finance background, and I just thought maybe there are ways to improve the ROI on development projects like this. How about introducing a new building method? And in New Zealand, there was a huge push for prefabrication at the time because New Zealand is, we lack a lot of materials and resources, and we were short on labor and everything. So there was a huge push from the industry to explore prefabrication. So I went ahead and assembled this team to look into a prefabricated system. And it was a panelized prefabricated system just to kind of like maintain that flexibility in design. It wasn't like full modular. And we took a year to do that design market fit and talking to agents and talking to the market about whether this design would be satisfying what they want to buy. But then in the end, we realized that, hey, we were able to get that prefab system to a cost-efficient state, but we weren't able to satisfy the kind of demand for customization and quality design in the market to get it to get to the price point that people would be willing to pay. So in that whole process, I came to the realization of what kind of technology is actually needed by the industry, because construction always answers to the real estate developer's needs and the real estate developer answers to the home buyer's needs, right? So if people always want a variety of end products, then it's very hard to standardize a big part of that industry. So we look back to our whole experience and we just decided that, hey, there's something else, which is this whole process dealing with different stakeholders, consultants, general contractors, and council, client. And there was a lot of communication problems. Oftentimes we were doing a lot of the communication either on a construction site or in a factory, right? Because we were dealing with and we were always on site. And we wanted to really put a workflow into that so that people would be communicating on the same platform. And that's when we built our first version. Like you, I built my first version, and it wasn't even called Billy, right? It was called Wonderbricks. And it was a platform that allowed the builders to communicate with the factories on the same platform about shop drawings, about delivery, about logistics, about installation. It was a communication platform, and it was integrated with email. So that was actually a pretty cool product, but then it was all web-based. And we just found that a lot of the communication just wasn't happening in front of a computer. People were communicating on WhatsApp, and then they were doing phone calls. They were just doing WhatsApp, and all the photos were on WhatsApp. So
what year was this though, Annie? What year was this?
I built this first platform back in 2021, right? And then 2022, we put the beta out and tested it. And then I went to factories and construction sites personally to test it with our early customers. And we just saw the way people were operating. They didn't have time for a very rigid kind of workflow-driven platform. They didn't have time for that. All they had time for was taking photos on the spot and dumping the photos all in WhatsApp, right? And then it would take weeks for somebody to compile all this information into an Excel spreadsheet and then circulate that Excel around to everybody to comment on. And then 4 rounds of comments later, they decide on something, and then they move ahead with the next stage of revisions or production. So that whole experience, I wouldn't call it a failure, but it was really eye-opening for me to like really grasp what is the actual pain point that people face every day, and what are the alternatives that they're already using to bridge that, and how our technology needs to be to really be an advantage, but not a burden to them. Like it really needs to be faster and better than what they're already using, which is WhatsApp and emails.
So Annie, do you have the ability to code? Do you do your own coding?
So I don't have a coding background, but what we did was that we had a couple of very good engineers on board in the beginning, and we worked with them in-house. So we didn't outsource it. We worked with them in-house, and it was just 4 of us basically designing the product and then building the product. And then we did most of the work getting the product out there and test it with potential customers and really observe their workflow. Most of the work was talking to customers with a minimally viable product. But it wasn't until we decided that, hey, this is not the way to go, let's build another product or version 2, which is now Billy, that we started to expand the team a little bit more.
So you just touched on could be the most important part of this entire thing. Okay. And that's every single founder. We all have the same common problem. We all have a tendency to overbuild our first MVP, our first version. And the reason why we all have the same problem is because we all think that we have the solution. So we want to build it, we want to solve the problem, and we want to move on. And that could be the single biggest mistake that every founder makes. The trick behind being a founder, now especially, is build your MVP, build what you must have, not what is nice to have, and then get it to the market, and then let the market tell you what they want. It's such an important point to make that other founders hear this. Don't overbuild your first product, period. So I see that Soil Connect is on a path now. And so about 6 months ago, now that the path is clear and what we need to do is been established, now just execute on the mission. I stepped down from CEO. And yes, of course, I'm still the founder. I'll always be the founder. And I'm an advisor and board member. But I kind of segued into what I'll call my next chapter or my third chapter, right? Because I put out a post on LinkedIn that I was stepping down. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do next. And I ended up getting emails and DMs on LinkedIn and WhatsApp about, hey, Cliff, can you help me with this? What do you think of my go-to-market strategy? Can you help me develop my product? And Annie, it kind of led me to a place of consulting. And hence, that's kind of how we met also. And so now that I'm sitting with a consulting hat on, having the experience of being a builder and having the experience of being a construction tech founder, it's an interesting seat to sitting now that I've experienced all the speed bumps to help other startups. So my whole world has opened up to so many other interesting startups. So it's been a very interesting past few months and transition. And so, yeah, where else are you planning to bring Billy?
I mean, Billy is such a simple product, right? You can download and you can start using it. So we really see Billy's potential with no boundaries. It can be used by construction companies all over the world. So that's our goal in 2025, to get Billy's product to a stage where it can be just so user-friendly and it can be so relatable to a lot of the construction businesses all over the world, whether that be custom home builders, remodelers, specialty contractors. And we're very focused on the small business experience because we think it's a universal experience, not limited to small businesses. Even in bigger companies where we are doing some innovation pilots, we find that big companies like to operate in small teams as well. And small teams like to operate in a very lean way, right? Every team within a big organization, they operate slightly differently depending on the manager's style, right? So as long as you're operating in a small team and you want a very efficient way to communicate on-site issues, Billy is the solution. It helps you automatically track those issues, categorize those issues, make those issues into reports and dashboards so managers can make better decisions.
Well, I agree 1,000%. And just so for my own knowledge, how many different languages have you developed Billy in so far?
So Billy is in 25 different languages.
Wow.
We really looked at the multilingual aspect of this product because we know for a fact that construction sites all over the world are multilingual. And you've got labor and trades coming from all sorts of different cultures and backgrounds. And the construction site is one of the most diverse places. And so we wanted to make sure that Billy can really adapt to all these different languages, and people can speak in their own language and it comes out in English, or you can speak in English and it translates instantly to a different language. So one of the very popular use cases is that a site manager may notice an issue on site, they may talk about it to Billy, and then instantly you translate it to Spanish. It's very easy.
That's really impressive. So for 2025, what new improvements or what other versions are you currently planning on?
So Billy has evolved, right? So Billy was at the beginning a very simple list making tool that you can talk and you can take photos and it makes it into a spreadsheet with the photos next to the issue description, right? Like that was its MVP. But then it started evolving to this smarter kind of assistant. So by the end of 2024, it became more like a personal assistant because we launched this Ask Billy feature. You can now ask Billy about anything you've said to Billy before. So every time you tell Billy something or show Billy something, it gets into Billy's memory. And the point of that is that you can ask Billy anytime to recall that memory, right? So imagine if you have 5 site managers working on different sites and they're talking to Billy every day about what's going on site. If one day one of those site managers leave the company for personal reasons, right, you're still going to have Billy. And Billy is basically a container of the site manager's memory.
Yeah.
The business owner, you retain that knowledge and you can easily handle the transition smoothly. 2025, we're going to make Billy a much faster and smarter personal assistant, right? It's going to adopt the most advanced technologies to make the reaction faster. In 2025, Billy can also see things as well, like not just to hear things, but it can see what you see as well. It would have eyes basically. And then
Interesting.
And then you can interact with it. It gives you a much faster response, and then it executes tasks much faster and executes more complicated tasks. So it just evolves as time goes on.
So, so as from founder to founder here, how are you planning on really expanding it in 2025?
We are very focused on sales and marketing in 2025. So the sales and marketing for us really drives the product innovation, right? Because as long as we keep putting ourselves in front of customers and putting Billy in front of customers, we're going to hear the right feedback from our users to steer us in the right direction, attracting the right talent. And some of these people who work with Billy, they may not even be full-timers, right? Because I hop around job sites all the time and I talk to people on job sites, and some of the smaller builders or smaller contractors where they see potential in Billy, they're actually interested in helping us sell the product part-time. Right. So like we're starting to get a bit of like a community together, a community of people who are in the industry who are interested to promote Billy. We're definitely open to partnering up with them. I think Billy is such an easy to understand product. People can basically just show a friend, and people will get it straight away. So one very important way for us to grow in 2025 is to build this community of people who are struggling with the same thing, and they see Billy as a potential solution to help them do their job faster and better. What did you find worked best for your business?
So we started doing a lot of social media, and we had a little success. And then as we continued to change course and find our way to ultimately where our ICP was, we got away from Facebook and we got away from Instagram, and we now have huge amount of success in LinkedIn and Sales Navigator. And we spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, Sales Navigator. But once again, it took me literally a few minutes to learn to download it, enter my name, and then I was taking pictures and talking to it within literally a few minutes. So your marketing efforts are definitely going to be different than what Soil Connect did. I think, quite frankly, you would do really, really well on social media here because it's so easy to use and it's really inexpensive to use. So why wouldn't you just download it and try it, right? That's the concept. What VCs are looking for nowadays is they're looking for profitability and they're looking for traction, and they want to know if you're profitable, or if you're not profitable, when are you going to be profitable? And so for founders starting today, they have to figure out how to fund this until they start getting traction. You have to be able to fund it yourself or not take a salary in the short term. Or another term that we all hear about is friends and family, right? Borrowing money, getting investments from friends and family, or sometimes you need to go into these incubator programs and learn.
Yeah, to add on to your comment, the flip side of that is it's much easier to build a good product riding on LLMs and AI capabilities. And you don't really need to build a massive team.
Yeah.
So that's good news for founders. Like, you don't need to build a massive team to ship a good product. But I think the biggest challenge remains to be product market fit in the industry that you work in, really justify the value that AI is able to bring to the industry's workflow. So you don't need as much capital as before to build a company or a product these days. But the challenge is immense to justify how much value you're adding on top of the LLMs